All right, we're live. Welcome everyone to another episode, the second episode of the Fourth and Loud podcast. I'm your host, Jalen Stiff, and today we got some pretty groundbreaking, earth-shattering news today in the in the NFL landscape, as it appears that the Defensive Player of the Year, one of the greatest defensive football players in the history of the NFL, in fact, arguably the best defensive player other than Aaron Donald of our generation, Myles Garrett, has been traded to the Los Angeles Rams for Jared Verse, a first-round pick in 2027, and a second-round pick in 2028, and a third-round pick in 2028. So, I said this article by NFL writer, senior news writer Kevin Petra, I believe. LA has required the reigning AP NFL Defensive Player of the Year, Myles Garrett, in a trade with the Browns, shipping Jared Verse and the aforementioned picks, the early round picks, for 2027, 2028, and actually 2029. So that's my part to Cleveland, as both teams announced yesterday, which was on Monday. NFL insiders Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero, I believe, and ESPN's Adam Schefter initially reported the trade earlier in the day. We have long taken the stance that our goal was for Myles Garrett to be a one-helmet player for his entire career, which was said by Browns general manager Andrew Berry in a statement. After rewriting the record books and representing our organization with excellence, we were sincere in that as we entered this offseason and did not envision a world where Myles was not a Cleveland Brown. When the Rams first approached us with the possibility of trading Myles, we remained convicted in our position, but as discussions intensified, we were stuck at a legitimate crossroads. Do we hold on to a truly generational player? I mean, he is probably the best defensive player in the NFL of our generation, other than Aaron Donald, who we have become the identity of our team, or do we make the difficult decision that we think is best for the organization over the long run? In that framework, the decision has become clear, although our emotions were muddled. We, and more importantly, our fans, have grown up with Myles, and he's an enormous source of pride for our team. However, as we embark on a new era of Browns football with a young core and a replenished asset base, we felt this move was important to our transition. Hours after the trade became official, Garrett bid farewell to the Cleveland fan base via social media. As here is his statement. Quote unquote, what can I say with complete honesty is this: I gave this city everything I had, Garrett wrote in part. I suited up and wore those colors with pride, and I don't regret a second of being part of this storied franchise. Every Sunday, every offseason, every play, every down, every moment. You gave me more in return than I ever could repay. The best days for this franchise are ahead. Thank you for letting me grow here. Thank you for believing in me. Loving you is easy. Leaving you is the hard part. Thank you for 9 unforgettable years. That's almost a decade. It's a massive game-changing move for the all-in Rams, who have never shied away from selling future assets for star talent via the Trent McDuffie trade that happened a few months ago before the draft, as they traded all those picks for Trent McDuffie, who's one of the better cornerbacks in the league. Snagging Garrett is the latest F them picks maneuver from general manager Les Snead, who previously has swung deals for Brandon Cooks, Jalen Ramsey, Matthew Stafford, Von Miller, and the aforementioned Trent McDuffie, with the latter coming earlier this offseason. Verse is a good young edge rusher, but he is not Garrett. That is true. Though I do think he become a maybe similar stature to Myles Garrett. That's just my opinion. I mean, I watched Verse ever since his time at Florida State with him and Brandon Fisk. I mean, he could have a potential, but I don't think he'll be just as generational as someone, like Myles Garrett. The NFL's best the NFL's best pass rusher is coming off a record-setting 23 sack campaign. That is true. Garrett has been named a first-team All-Pro in five of the past 6 seasons, earned 6 consecutive Pro Bowls, and had at least 10 sacks in each of the past 8 campaigns, all but his rookie year in 2017. A force of nature, he is indeed. Garrett wins off the line with the blink of an eye first step and dominate with both finesse and power. The 30-year-old can single-handedly wreck offensive game plans. Excuse me. And force teams to send double teams and chip his away, making life easier for the rest of the unit. In 9 seasons, Garrett has gobbled up 125.5 career sacks, which is tied for 20th all-time for the NFL career sacks. During his run, Cleveland struggled offensively, rarely giving the pass rusher opportunities to pin his ears back and snag garbage time sacks with opponents in pass first mode. In his 9 years, the Browns never finished with an offense in the top 10 in EPA per play and ranked dead last each of the past 2 seasons. That never slowed Garrett, who compiled 37 sacks in the last 2 campaigns. That means in 2025, not 2025, 2024, he had 14, and then last year he had 23. Okay. Now imagine him playing opposite Stafford, Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, Kyron Williams, and the rest of Sean McVay's offense. That would be wow, that would be deadly. As Stafford put up an MVP season in 2025, the Rams defense struggled at times to get stops. See Seattle. That is true. It couldn't really stop Seattle despite in the regular season, both teams were equally matched on paper. Both were, 1-1 in the regular season. Then in the NFC Championship game, yeah, the Seahawks got the better of the Rams. Much of the issue was on the back end, which repeatedly got picked on. However, for spells, the pass rush went too quiet. Byron Young generated a team high 12 sacks last year, with Verse coming in second with 7.5. Enter Garrett. The Rams are the first team in NFL history to par the reigning NFL MVP and Defensive Player of the Year per NFL Network research. They also boast the receptions leader, which is Puka Nacua, and the receiving touchdown leaders, which was Devontae Adams. The Rams in last year, their offense was crazy. I mean, they really could have won the Super Bowl if they didn't have those drops by that one guy. I forgot his name. LA attacked the offseason, making big moves to revamp the secondary, like trading a first round pick to the Chiefs for Trent McDuffie and adding Jalen Watson in free agency. Trading for Garrett trumps those moves, giving defensive coordinator Chris Shula the NFL's top defensive weapon to deploy. Front to back, the Rams made massive moves to upgrade the unit exponentially in 2026. The controversial move of selecting Ty Simpson in the first round of the 2026 NFL Draft helped LA make this trade. With their QB succession plan for the 38 Stafford theoretically handled, they could afford to send first-round picks to Cleveland, believing they won't need to use that ammo for a Senna Color down the road. That is bold. That is very bold. The Browns vociferously. I'm gonna say seriously instead. The Browns, whatever that word is, I'm gonna say seriously, insisted all offseason that they weren't planning on trading Garrett, which was true. The face of the franchise after inking him to a 4-year, $160 million extension last offseason. Yet when the club modified his option bonus from March to 7 days before the regular season, it opened up a greater possibility of the Browns moving on from the edge rusher. Despite various protestations that he wouldn't trade Garrett, the fact that the star player had never met with new head coach Todd Monken, stayed away from voluntary offseason workouts, and had his contract adjusted provided breadcrumbs to a move might be coming. Once they got past the June 1st deadline, the Browns signaled their full-on rebuild by moving their best player. Waiting until now has allowed Cleveland to spend the $41 million in dead money on the salary cap over the next 2 seasons, which would have been 15.53 million in 2026, 25.56 million in 2027, rather than taking it all in 2026. The Browns spent the offseason revamping their offense, completely overhauling the offensive line and drafting receivers Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston. However, the significant questions remain at quarterback, where Deshaun Watson, yikes, and Shedeur Sanders are suspected to compete for the starting gig. If the franchise quarterback isn't on the roster, moving off from Garrett now allows them to attain picks that could help attain one down the road. If the Browns continue to flounder, the net return on the pass rusher 1 or 2 years from now would have been significantly less. Trading Garrett takes a massive bite out of the Browns defense, which is true because Myles Garrett is literally the Browns defense. I mean, we think of the Browns defense. No disrespect to the other good players that got defense, but when I think of the Browns defense, I only think of Myles Garrett, and that's it. But getting Verse back softens the blow a smidge. Last year, Garrett gobbled up 23 QB takedowns while no other player on the roster hit the 7-sack mark. Cleveland now adds Verse, a bulldog pass rusher from Dayton, Ohio, who can run over blockers and brings upside. The timeline of Verse, who is still growing his game, better aligns with Cleveland's rebuild than the 30-plus-year-old Garrett. Chief among the considerations to make the decision was the inclusion of Jared Verse, a player our fan base will love, Barry said. At 25 years old, with 2 Pro Bowls and a Defensive Rookie of the Year award under his belt, we receive a young, elite player at a premium position who will continue to improve in his 3rd NFL season. Jarrett's passion and relentless style of play will be embraced by our fans. He will fit right in with the established identity of our defense. Cleveland could have held firm and hoped to turn things around with Garrett in the next few seasons. However, his value was never going to be higher. The Rams offered a deal they couldn't refuse. Following the ill-fated Watson gambit in 2022, which in my honest opinion was probably one of the dumbest decisions that an NFL franchise had ever made in these past few seasons, the Browns have struggled to find any sort of footing, lack assets to make significant additions, and still have no clear future under center. In one swift move, they admitted they're still in the early stages of a rebuild under Maka and provided future picks to one day possibly get over the hump. Now, my opinion on this, I think the Browns made a really bad mistake. I mean, I understand, you know, Myles Garrett, he was 30 plus years old, but he's the reigning AP Defensive Player of the Year. He's the best defensive player in the NFL right now, and I understand he probably low-key wanted to leave Cleveland because even though they say he didn't show up to any offseason workouts, he never even met head coach Todd Monken, the new head coach, by the way. He never even met him. So he was probably looking away to leave Cleveland, but I didn't expect him to leave in a trade to the Rams out of all teams, who are already a Super Bowl contender. And now, if you look at all the odds makers had the Rams as the team to go to the Super Bowl and probably win and most definitely win it. I mean, this is a crazy move. I didn't expect this at all. I did not expect the Los Angeles Rams to trade Jared Verse for Myles Garrett and all those early round draft picks. I didn't expect that at all. But the fact that the Rams, with all the superstar talent that they have, with Stafford, Adams, Nakua, McDuffie, Kyron Williams, and now you add a 30-year-old plus or a 30-plus-year-old, but still really, really good Myles Garrett, the reigning Defensive Player of the Year. That's 6 stars on one team. Now, I'm not gonna lie. Teams like the Eagles, Seahawks, or whoever's next up for Super Bowl contention this season will have to step their game up, especially in the playoffs, because playing the Rams is going to be like playing the Monstars from the movie Space Jam. If you watch the movie, you know what I'm talking about. But this is like an earth-shattering move in the football world, because this is a move by the Rams that is very similar to what their baseball counterparts, the LA Dodgers from Major League Baseball, this is what very similar to what they're doing. So how I see it, the Rams are taking the Dodgers, Los Angeles Dodgers game plan, right, and using that to their advantage, to stack up all their talent to win a championship. As we seen they did it in 2021 when they added Von Miller, who is still in his prime. I don't care what they say about Von Miller now, but in 2021 he was still in his prime. So this is a move that is very similar to what the Los Angeles Dodgers are doing to Major League Baseball, stacking as much talent as you can to win a championship or to become a dynasty. Now, while it is great for the Rams, it's very great and beneficial for the Rams, and it's terrible for the league. At the same time, just because you stack all that talent doesn't automatically qualify means you win a championship. Because you can have all the talent in the world, all the greatest, best players in the world to be on one team. But the thing is, if you don't have that team chemistry or a solid game plan, you can never win a championship. Without chemistry, you can never win a championship. The closest thing, there's a lot of teams who had a lot of talent but never won a championship, not because they couldn't have team chemistry or didn't have solid gameplay. They just lost. Like the '07 Patriots, the second team in NFL history to go undefeated, they lost in the Super Bowl to the underdog wild card New York Giants, led by a young Eli Manning. This is all cross sports. The Brooklyn Nets, when they had Kyrie, KD, James Harden, those they had all that talent. They never won a championship with the year and a half they were together. Who else? Who else? There's a lot of super teams that never really amounted to much, but those are the only two I can really think of right now. But just because, like I said, now this could go the other way. They could win a championship, become the next dynasty, or they could just flat out flop, with injuries, lack of team chemistry, egos, coming to blows. Like I said, it could work, it could not work in the perspective of the Rams. So it's a all-in type of trade for the Rams as they want to win now, as they were only one game away from them making the Super Bowl this past season. I mean, it could work, it could not work. That's my take. But if I go to the perspective of the Browns, this got to be one of the. This is tough point of saying this. I'm not saying this is completely stupid or dumb by the Browns, as they're a team that are on that have been rebuilding for a long, long time. But like I said, but trading your best player to a Super Bowl contending team for a player who is good, Jared Verse is really good. It just seemed like it won't work. Like the Browns, they don't really have a quarterback right now. It's between Shador or Deshaun Watson, who everyone knows is not that good anymore. It's just for the Browns. It's good. They're still rebuilding, but I don't know. This is a smart move on the Browns' part. I mean, at first the Browns were never going to trade Myles Garrett. They were never going to trade him, especially after giving that extension. But after a while, it's just him not showing up. Meeting the new head coach. It's just it's just yeah. It was just never going to work. I don't know. For the Browns, this could come back and bite me. The Browns could be really good within the next the NFL rebuild within the next 3 to 5 years, but right now I just don't see it. I just still see the Browns being the Browns, i.e., still struggling in the AFC North. But in other news, very interesting news. It says that from the yard marker, Aaron Donald has one condition to possibly unretire. That being joining alongside Myles Garrett with the Rams. During Tuesday's edition of ESPN's Get Up program, NFL insider Adam Schefter suggested that the door was slightly open for defensive superstar Aaron Donald to come out of retirement and rejoin the Los Angeles Rams after the Rams acquired the aforementioned two-time Defensive Player of the Year Myles Garrett from the Cleveland Browns on Monday. Later on Tuesday, Pat McAfee revealed on his show that he reached out to Donald about possibly making a comeback. Donald didn't completely dismiss the idea in his response. So he basically said, yes, no, but yeah, it's possible. But it's still possible he may come back. Now, everyone knows Aaron Donald, especially if you grew up watching football in the 2010s and early 2020s, arguably the best defensive player of all time. We haven't seen a player this dominant since at least probably Lawrence Taylor and during his prime. But him coming back, I don't know if that would be good or bad, I'm not sure he'll probably come back. But and the thing right here in the text, it sure got me thinking. Donald texted McAfee when asked if the 3-time Defensive Player of the Year award winner would possibly go play alongside Garrett there this year. 35, removed 2 years ago. Got to see that fire can light back up. Back in November of 2025, Donald insisted he did not miss football and was fulfilled after call time on his playing days following the 2023 season. I don't love playing the game of football anymore, Donald said at the time. It sounds like Donald could spend the next month or so see if he could reclaim the previously mentioned fire before training camp workouts began in late July. So excited. So why the fire may not light back up for Aaron Donald? Excited Ram fans may not want to automatically assume that Donald's fire will light back up just because his former employer added the league's current most dominant defensive force, who is still in his physical prime. Donald reportedly considered retiring after the Rams won a Super Bowl 56 in February 2022, but he ultimately agreed to a rework contract that gave him a pay raise. Since that time, there has been no real indication that the one-time Super Bowl champion and future Hall of Famer has felt like he has anything left to prove as a player. Additionally, Schefter noted in his update that the Rams may not be able to add Donald to the books. Garrett signed a big money extension last offseason, and the Rams have signed both cornerback Trent McDuffie and quarterback Matthew Stafford to extensions since March of this year. History suggests a rusty Donald, who turned 35 years old last month, wouldn't be what he was at his best with the Rams coming this fall. For what it's worth, he likely wouldn't need to be the league's best player at his position to impact games and terrorize opposing offenses while sharing a defense with Garrett. That's true. So Aaron Donald returning back to the Rams. At his age, at 35, I don't know. I don't think. I think he should probably just stay retired. I mean, I'm not telling him what to do and what not to do, but in my honest opinion, it's just him returning back in 35 and not being in the same shape. I mean, he's in a retirement shape now. I don't know if Aaron Donald's he's been working out, getting in the gym still at at his age in his mid 30s, but him coming back, I don't know. I'm not sure about this. I don't know if I know it probably won't work out. In my opinion, it probably won't work out if he comes back, because the Rams are already loaded, and I just see Donald as like that veteran, kind of unnecessary weight. No disrespect to Aaron Donald. I mean, I like Aaron Donald. He's a fantastic first ballot Hall of Fame player, but I just don't know. It just seemed like unnecessary dead weight for the Rams to have if he does come back, because he most likely won't be the same. Now he doesn't have to make like I said in the article, he doesn't have to make an impact like immediately. He doesn't make an impact immediately and still like have to be the best at his position, as Myles Garrett has already fulfilled that. But he can impact in a veteran way, leadership, taking the younger guys under his wing and teaching them, how to break down offensive lines and get to the quarterback. Now that could work. He could just come back as that veteran player who provides insight and leadership and experience. But as a full blown player and starter, I don't personally see it. But in other NFL news across the landscape, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter right here, the Falcons are signing wide receiver Drake London to a 4-year, $141 million extension worth up to $150 million, including $100 million guaranteed per his agent Andrew Kessler. It makes London the third highest paid receiver in the league with the highest average per year in Falcons franchise history. Now, in my opinion, about Drake London getting that massive contract, I mean, that's a lot of money, by the way. I think that for him, I think it's a solid, good contract. I mean, London is one of the better. He's one of the best receivers. Well, I don't know about best. I would say one of the better receivers in the NFL, and he has proven that he can be a good a really pretty good wide receiver. Hold on, I'm trying to find stats right here. No available info. That's weird. Bio splits. Huh, that's weird. Let me look up CSPN. Hold on. Let me look up career stats. I see right here for his receiving numbers. I mean, 2024 was probably yards wise was his best receiving count in receiving yards at 1,271. And this year, you could say he took a backlog this year for the Falcons, but I still think he's probably their best receiver that they have, in my honest opinion, with that Falcons squad. I mean, they have other great wide receivers. As I'm trying to pull up Pro Football Reference. This may take a little bit. Okay, there we go. No, not 2022. Hold on, let me pull up stats. Stats. For no, because last year, because they have guys like Darnell Mooney and Kyle and the now All Pro Kyle Pitts, who's finally an All Pro after waiting many years for as us football fans had waited a long time for him to finally break out. But like I said, the fact that you got Drake London and Darnell Mooney, who hold on, let me see his receiving stats. But yeah, I believe Mooney got hurt. Yeah, I think he got hurt. Yeah, let me see. Did Mooney get hurt? I think he got hurt. Yeah, 15. Oh, he played 15 games. Oh, yeah, Mooney wasn't that well used last year. But basically, yeah, I agree because with Drake London getting that money it's not ridiculous because he was really the wide receiver one for that Falcons squad all year long because Mooney didn't really have the best year. They also had B. John, but he's not a wide receiver, he's a running back. But like I said, I do think he deserves that money. And hey, he's one of the better receivers in the game. Hey, get that money, brother. In other news, Nick Herbig and the Pittsburgh Steelers reached an agreement today for a 4-year, $100 million extension that includes $42 million guaranteed per Mike Garafolo and me. Okay. Hold on, let me check it. Close this tab. Bring this tab over here so I can see his name. Nick Herbig. Right here. Let's see. Okay, he's a linebacker. So he had an interception last year. He forced 3 fumbles. Oh my goodness. What pass defended by a defensive player. So three forced fumbles, a fumble recovery for a touchdown. He had AV. What's that mean? Approximate value. So 4 approximate value, 18 QB hits, 13 tackles for loss, 21 total tackles. He had a pretty good season last year, I say. So. I don't know if the Steelers should really give him that big of extension. 4 years or $100 million. Maybe the Steelers see something in him and they think that they probably hit gold. But I think, but hey, he had a pretty good season last year. We've seen a lot of linebackers in the past break out. Oh, the guy for the Eagles, what was his name? Zach Bond. I mean, he was a special teams player, but then in 2024 he broke out and became an all pro, a first team all pro linebacker, and he's one of the vital parts of the Eagles defense. So I say for not the Eagles, the Steelers, they probably seen a lot of potential in Nick. So hey, it's a decision that they made, and hopefully going forward he can continue to produce. For the Seahawks, they gave Derek Hall a 3-year, $42 million extension that could be worth up to $46.5 million and includes a $21 million guaranteed. Per his agent Chad Berger and Urza J. Thompson, Hall is now under contract to Seattle to the 2029 season. Hall had 2 sacks and a forced fumble during the Seahawks Super Bowl 6, I think it was Super Bowl 60 win over the Patriots. Yes, that Super Bowl right there was pretty bad. It was very defensive heavy, but hey, the Seahawks completely dominated the Patriots. The Patriots stood no chance in the Super Bowl. Okay, for Derek Hall, he had a pretty good season. He started in 14 games. He played in 14 games, started in 3. He had 2 pass deflections, no forced fumbles, 2 total sacks. Yeah, a lot of tackles. He's an outside linebacker. That makes sense. 30 combined tackles, 11 solo, 19 assists, 3 tackles for loss. Had 13 QB hits. Had a approximate value for 3 compared to 2024 when he had 9. So the Seahawks most likely view him as a key asset, especially in that Super Bowl. Say he had 2 sacks and a forced fumble. I mean, I think he deserves a contract. Derek Hall. If the Seahawks view him as a an asset to their stifling defense, why not pay the man? He deserves it. So that's how I see it. Okay, Adam Schefter video. Oh yeah, of course, the trade that everybody knew was going to happen, especially during the draft when the Eagles drafted Myles Garrett. The Eagles are trading Pro Bowl wide receiver AJ Brown to the Patriots for a 2028 first round pick and a 2027 fifth round pick. That is the better of New England's 2/5. The deal has been speculated on for weeks now and finally is. Browns and Patriots head coach Mike Vrabel are reuniting. Oh yeah, because for most who know, but for those who don't know, AJ Brown wasn't always an Eagle. He originally was a Titan, and him and Mike Vrabel were both on the Titans before Vrabel was fired by the Titans. Titans for was the Cowboy for Buchanan, right? Yeah, for Buchanan. But hey, a lot of people knew that this was gonna happen. The Patriots needed a wide receiver for May, especially since they made the Super Bowl last year. At the time before this trade, the Patriots' best wide receiver, well, their wide receiver one was Romeo Dobbs, which isn't bad, but they don't really have that, guy like AJ Brown, and they really needed a good wide receiver for him, and I think Brown could fit the mold if his ego doesn't get in the way like it did last year. I mean, the constant trauma between AJ Brown and and the Eagles head coach. Why am I forgetting people's names? That's so weird. I keep forgetting his name. I don't know why. Yeah, Nick Sirianni and AJ Brown, the constant beef, the sidelines going, back and forth, back and forth. It was just too much. It was just too much toxicity for the Eagles to handle. And I think it was the best for the Eagles to trade him, especially when they traded Myles Garrett. The moment they traded Myles Garrett, I was immediately like, oh yeah, they're gonna trade AJ Brown. They're gonna trade him. I would trade him too if they had that much amount of drama for a wide receiver. So that's just my opinion. Okay, let me see this video about Adam Schefter explaining how Jared Verse made it possible for Myles Garrett trade to happen.
Smelling like royalty isn't luck, it's layering. With Cremo, wash, protect, and finish. Layer it for scents that rise and elevate every room. Cremo, a crown fit for you.
When the Browns redid Myles Garrett's deal, there were people that suspected at that time that this paves the way for the Cleveland Browns to trade Myles Garrett. And I truly believe, I know, that when the Browns redid that deal, the idea was to reconfigure the way and time in which they paid option bonus payments. Now, most fans don't care about when option bonus payments are paid, but the way it was set up in Myles Garrett's deal was the 15th day of the new league year in mid-March. They pushed it back to a week before the start of the regular season. Once they did that, it created more flexibility to trade him.
This is very low quality.
So that was a big deal to a lot of teams. In fact, I had a couple of teams call me and say they're going to trade him. They're going to trade him eventually. The Browns were adamant all along. Like I told you an hour ago, we're not trading him. We're not trading him. But the Rams began pursuing Myles Garrett. They kept pursuing Myles Garrett. They didn't stop pursuing Myles Garrett until they were eventually willing to include Jared Verse in the trade. Once Jared Verse got included in the trade, the Browns were interested. Okay, we get a player now for the short term, and we get draft pick compensation, including a first-round draft pick in 27. That we can live with.
Yeah, I think Mr. Schefter said enough. I mean, once the Rams offered Jared Verse, I guess that for the Browns the deal became too irresistible to ignore. So they just caved. So they probably just caved in, and and the trade happening. And other kind of bizarre news for the Giants, they are signing a former wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster to a 1-year deal, and also they signed Braxton Barrows. And for old Giants fans who still wanted the good old days with the one-hand catch, they have signed Odell Beckham Jr. Yes, OBJ is coming back to New York. Bizarre twist of events. Did not expect that. Yesterday was a really, really bizarre day for the NFL. I admit. Okay, in other news, and this is news that I thought was pretty fun to see. Kiwan Lacey, Malachi Tony, and Dante Moore will be on the cover for this year's EA Sports College Football video game, that being EA Sports College Football 27. Ole Miss running back Kiwan Lacey, Miami wide receiver Malachi Tony, and Oregon quarterback Dante Moore will lead the cast of athletes featured on the cover of EA Sports College Football 27, the video game developer announced Tuesday. Lacey, Tony, and Moore are featured on the cover of the game's standard edition that releases on July 9th. They are joined by Indiana coach Kurt Signetti, USC quarterback Jaden Mavieva, Texas pass rusher Colin Simmons, and Notre Dame cornerback Leonard Moore on the cover of the title's deluxe edition. Okay, I would play this game for hours with my family growing up, so now being on the cover of EA Sports College Football 27 representing Ole Miss feels surreal, Lacey said in the statement. It is truly a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We're going to look at the covers. Eventually, I will show you all the covers after I read this article. I promise. Lacey broke out with 1,567 rushing yards, which is third most in the nation, and 24 touchdowns in his first season with the Rebels in 2025. Tony had an FBS high 109 receptions as a true freshman and helped Miami reach the college football playoff championship game. Moore led Oregon to a 13-2 season and turned down the opportunity to be a first-round pick to return for junior. Yeah, everyone was saying, well, the draft odds had him going to the New York Jets. Yes, and then later it was announced that he was not going to the NFL. He was going to play another year of college. I mean, this is my opinion. If I was a quarterback, a really good quarterback enough to be a top 5 draft pick, and I figured out that the New York Jets are going to draft me, yeah, I'll go back for another year of college. EA Sports rebooted its college football franchise in 2024 after an 11-year hiatus, as many of you know, and College Football 25 became the best-selling sports video game in U.S. history based on dollar sales. Colorado cornerback receiver Travis Hunter, the eventual Heisman Trophy winner, was featured on the 2024 cover alongside Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers and Michigan running back Donovan Edwards. Excuse me for a moment. Okay. Ohio State wide receiver Jeremiah Smith and Alabama wide receiver Ryan Williams were the cover athletes of College Football 27 following their breakthrough freshman seasons, especially with Jeremiah Smith, winning the national championship and being arguably the best receiver in the nation. I think, in my opinion, he is the best receiver in the nation, despite Malachi Lemon winning the Biletnikoff Award. And Ryan Williams had a crazy 2024 season, especially for those. If you watch the Alabama and Georgia game, you will understand why. Despite this past season, which was kind of a dud for him. Signetti earned his spot on the deluxe cover after leading Indiana to a 16-0 national championship last season. By the way, 2025, fun fact, 2025 Indiana and 1896 Yale are the only two teams in college football history to finish the season 16-0. Just a little fun fact. College football 26 was the first game to incorporate a roster of real college coaches and featured 7 head coaches on its deluxe edition cover, including Notre Dame's Marcus Freeman, Arizona State's Kenny Dillingham, and Oregon's Dan Lanning. Being on the cover of EA Sports College Football 27 is an absolute privilege after growing up a fan of the game, Dante Moore said in a statement. Coach Lanning and the Duck were on last year's deluxe edition, and now to carry that legacy forward and represent Oregon makes me really proud. As I show you the covers real quick, this is the right here. This is the standard edition cover. As you see, you got Lacey, Tony, and Moore. I really like this cover. I think this cover, the fireworks, the 3-star players, Lacey showing off the visor and the ice with the grills. I like how Tony's throwing up the U, which is a tradition at Miami, and also the trademark, with the I tit. Game ain't based off of sympathy. That's really tough. And of course, you got Dante Moore. Well, I really like this cover. I think this is probably the best cover in my opinion of the game, other than the College Football 25 Deluxe Edition cover. I think that one's kind of unbeatable. But this cover is really, really good. Back out. Let me show y'all the Deluxe Edition, which has been getting clowned on by the college football world. As I'm just pulling up right now. Yeah, there it goes. My friend, but yeah, this is the deluxe edition cover. It's been clowned on by everybody across the whole world, like Reddit, Twitter, Instagram. Everyone's clown cover. A lot of people say this looked like a 2000 spoof movie appearance. As you see, some people it's very conflicting, reports. But at first, I thought it was kind of bad, but now for some reason, I kind of like it. I mean, it's goofy and bizarre, but it's not that bad. It's not like the worst video game cover I've ever seen. But but I don't think it's that bad. That's just my opinion, though. I don't know what y'all, but let me know in the chat what y'all think. Okay, so we got other news. We got other news about the Brandon Swordsby situation. Yeah, the fate. Okay, so I guess we got more news on the Brandon Swordsby situation. So this is all to be fun. The fate of Texas Tech quarterback Brandon Swordsby's collegiate eligibility will be decided in the near future after a 2-hour hearing in Lubbock County District Court on Monday. Attorneys for Swordsby are seeking a temporary injunction prohibiting him to play in 2026 after the NCAA ruled him ineligible and denied his request for reinstatement after he placed thousands of bets, as we went over on Sunday, on college and professional sports, including on his own team during his career. The decision will be up to Judge Ken Curry, a retired judge from Tarrant County. Curry asked for additional documentation and is expected to render a decision in the upcoming days. Swordsby's attorneys announced for a decision by June 15th, so that Swordsby can decide to enter the NFL supplemental draft by June 22nd. Hold on. Jeffrey Kessler, Swordsby's lead attorney, argued in the hearing that the NCAA ignored its own rules by not considering Swordsby's well-being in this decision, describing his gambling history as a mental health and addiction issue that the NCAA is required to support and not punish. That's a solid argument. NCAA attorney Taylor Askew said that the organization did consider Swordsby's mental health in its process of deeming him permanently ineligible, and that those challenges do not excuse his gambling or the consequences of his actions. That's a solid argument too. Swordsby's wager approximately $90,000 over 4 years, and continued to gamble on professional sports this year after transferring from Cincinnati to Texas Tech. During this offseason. According to a 4-page list of stipulated facts, Swordsby's and Texas Tech submitted to the NCAA acknowledging his actions. Okay, so this is the news that I couldn't get on Sunday's live stream, but here we are. We're gonna do it right now. Swordsby's used accounts registering in his name, a family member's name, and a friend's name to place the impermissible wagers via Hard Rock Bet, FanDuel, Underdog, and Prize Picks accounts. Swordsby's transferred more than $60,000 to 2 friends to cover bets made on his behalf. As we all know, Swordsby's placed at least 40 bets. Bets which totaled more than $1,400 while he was a quarterback for Indiana in 2022 and 2023. As we know the NCAA doesn't allow student athletes to gamble, whether on collegiate or professional sports. We also know that. But here's a little bit more news right here. Swordsby also placed at least 50 bets on Indiana's men's basketball and approximately 300 bets on college football games during his 2 years at the university. At this approach, which would be on at 8:30. It's 8:30 tomorrow. That's game 1. A surprisingly strong consensus has formed around one side. While New York entered the series chasing its first championship since 1973, that's half a century plus, and San Antonio is trying to end a 12-year title drought, most predictions are leaning heavily towards the Spurs. That's number 10. We're not gonna look into this. I can't. Among 13 experts on ESPN, 10 selected San Antonio to win the championship, while only 3 picked New York. For a matchup featuring 2 teams that have survived difficult playoff paths, that gap stands out immediately. Yes, it does. The MVP voting followed almost the exact same pattern. Victor Wembanyama received 10 Finals MVP selections, while Jalen Brunson earned the remaining 3. No other player received support, which suggests many analysts believe the biggest individual battle in this series is already clear. That confidence in San Antonio did not appear out of nowhere. The Spurs reached the finals after defeating Minnesota in 6 before surviving a grueling 7-game series dogfight. It was an absolute dogfight. It was always back and forth against Oklahoma City, the defending champion Oklahoma City Thunder. Each round presented a different challenge, and each round strengthened the belief that San Antonio can adjust when circumstances change. As you know, I said at the beginning of the playoffs to a friend that whoever wins the West is most likely going to win the finals. While the Knicks are a pretty good team, they're a pretty dang good team. With Brunson, OG, Cat, Josh Hart, and all the other underrated guys they got, especially on the bench and their starters. I believe that whoever wins the Western Conference, which I said was most likely going to be either OKC or San Antonio, is most likely going to win the finals. Probably in 6. They're 6. But so yeah, at the same time, predictions do not completely dismiss New York. Several analysts still expect the series to stretch deep into June, with numerous picks calling for a 6 or 7 games, like I just previously stated. That detail suggests that there is plenty of respect for the Knicks despite the lopsided voting totals. The most interesting part might be that New York already owns a championship victory over San Antonio this season. When both teams met, they played for the NBA Cup. The Knicks won. Even with that result on the board, most experts still landed on the Spurs when asked to make a final choice. Predictions rarely determine what happens once the ball goes up. They do, however, reveal where confidence exists before the series starts. And right now, that confidence appears to be sitting overwhelmingly with San Antonio and Victor Wembanyama. So my opinion, my opinion on this is that between the Knicks and the Spurs, I got the Spurs. I kind of been leading into the Spurs a little bit, and I'm not trying to let my bias influence y'all or any way. This is just my opinion. I think wholeheartedly that the Spurs will probably win in 6 or 7 games. I'm only being kind when I say 6 because the way how New York plays, with Jalen Brunson, how good he really is, and also that whole team dynamic that New York has. I personally have the Spurs because I feel like with Wemby, he's the first ever ununanimous Defensive Player of the Year, and also the very underrated supporting cast. They have, with Stephon Castle and Sochan and Johnson and Keldon Johnson, Castle and Devin Vassell. I say in my opinion, I feel like the Spurs, they've had a much tougher path compared to New York. Not saying the Knicks didn't have an easy path, how we saw game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals with the Cavs, but the Cavs choked that lead and they pretty much choked that whole Eastern Conference away. But like I said, I think whoever comes out of the Western Conference alive for the NBA Finals is most likely going to win the finals. And right now I just see San Antonio winning it all. No offense to New York. I mean, it would be kind of funny to see how the whole city of New York reacts once it's announced that the Knicks won the finals. I mean, that would be one crazy day in New York City history. They'll probably put the Super Bowl celebration that Philly had to shame. But yeah, the way I see it, that the Spurs is most likely going to win the finals, in my honest opinion. Let me know how y'all feel about the Knicks and Spurs finals in the chat. Hold on, let me close this out. So yeah, I believe that's all I have for today for episode 2 of the Fourth and Loud podcast. A lot of NFL, a little bit of college, and a little bit of NBA just for fun. Yeah, so pretty good episode. Got a lot of stuff. Well, a lot of stuff got off my chest to talk about sports. And, we're pretty much a sports podcast, despite being more college football, NFL centric. But we could talk about a little NBA. And hey, maybe other sports or other moments, like the World Cup is coming up. That'll be pretty interesting to talk about. So yeah, I think that's all I had to say for today's episode for the Fourth and Loud podcast. This is your host Jalen Stiff signing off, and I will see you